Shalom Aleichem. Now we're starting the Haftorah. We're doing the Haftorah of last week's Parshas Yisro, and we did one 4 weeks ago on Kol HaLashon, but we want to do one every week on Kol HaLashon, but we did every week so far on TorahAnytime.com, that those who are viewing are seeing the Haftorah, but we did the one in the beginning of January. Now we're doing the fourth one, but we're going to try to get the other three in for Kol HaLashon off the air, off the video, not on the Kol Torah time has it, but we want to put on all the Haftorahs in order, in chronological order. So let's now do on Kol HaLashon the second Haftorah, but for Torah Anytime it is the fourth on the Haftorah of Yisro. Yisro, the Yidden stood at Har Sinai and they saw the Merkava. They saw Hashem, whatever that means, in the closest form. So the Haftorah talks about Yeshaya, when he had a Maser Merkava, a vision of the angels of God, of what's going on in heaven. The highest madrega that human beings ever lived was at Har Sinai, when the people saw a washwoman saw more than Yecheskel ben Buzi. So the highest madrega ever was the Dor Deah under Moshe Rabbeinu, when they saw Shamayim, whatever that means. And now Yeshaya discovers when he saw his Maser Merkava, which is in the 6th chapter of Yeshaya, which is the Haftorah of last week, Yisro. And there's another Maser Merkava by Yecheskel Aleph. It's also Maser Merkava. And Yecheskel was not as great as Yeshaya, because Yeshaya describes it in a few Pesukim, and Yecheskel goes on with many Pesukim to show that Yecheskel was more enthralled than Yeshaya. So the Chachamim compared it to a city boy and a country boy. A city boy sees everything, all the big skyscrapers and all the big things going on. It's nothing to him. He doesn't have to describe it. A country boy sees it the first time as he goes into 10, 20 minutes discussion, what he saw, the trains and the buildings and the big crowds. Yeshaya was like a professional Navi. Yecheskel was, in this subject about Maser Merkava, not as great as Yeshaya. So let's take a look at the Haftorah, discussing what Yeshaya saw. It's the 6th chapter of Yeshaya, but it's the very first beginning of the Nevuah of Yeshaya. But they put it in the 6th chapter for a certain reason. Vishnas Mos Melech Uziyahu. It was in the year that the death of Uziyahu, the king of Israel, he didn't die at all. He just got tsuras on his forehead because he said, "I'm anointed, and the Kohanim are anointed, and they can bring the Ketoras in the Beis Hamikdash. I can bring the Ketoras." Meanwhile, that's a Yikayim Misa for that. Only a Kohen goes into the Beis Hamikdash or the Mishkan and brings Ketoras. So he said, "I'm anointed, you're anointed. We're both anointed, so I'm on the same level as you." Not true. He almost died. He got tsuras. The king Uziyahu, and this is Yeshaya talking on chapter Vav. Vishnas Mos didn't really die. He had tsuras. Now this Haftorah is 21 Pesukim, which is the minimum of any Haftorah. There are other Haftorahs that have 9 and 10 and 12, but that's the whole subject that ends with the end of the Haftorah. The subject ends. But here it doesn't end, so you have to have at least 21 Pesukim. So we go into Yeshaya Vav and Zion, and then we skip 10 pages, go to Tes. The last 2 Pesukim is Tes. You have to have at least 21 Pesukim, but if you finish a subject in its entirety, you can have even 9, 10, 12, 14 Pesukim. Out of all the 54 Sedras, 25% of them do not have 21 Pesukim. Why do you need 21 Pesukim? Because the Haftorah has to have at least 3 Pesukim for every man that was called up to the Torah. There's 7 men called up to the Torah on Shabbos. 7 times 3 is 21, so you have to have at least 21 Pesukim. And the subject can go on and on and on in Haftorah, but it has to have 21 Pesukim. But if the subject ends, like in certain Haftorahs, they have only 9 Pesukim, 9, 10, 12, 14, 16, 25% of all the Haftorahs don't have I would say not 25%, 20% of all the Haftorahs do not have 21 Pesukim. However, it's part of sentences taken out of a long subject in these 21 Pesukim. So therefore, this has chapter 5, 6, and 7, and 9. Together it's 21 Pesukim. So it says the Haftorah of Yisro, Mishnas Mos Melech Uziyahu, was in the year of the death of Uziyahu. The era Es Ado, and he saw Hashem, Yosef Akise sitting on a throne, whatever that means. Ram V'Niso high and the mighty, Shulav and his hem of his garment, Milayim as a heichel filled up that heichel, the lower extremity of filled the temple. You understand? We're talking about the highest level of nevuah here. This is Meister Makova. Srofim omdim imalo, burning angels were standing above him. V'sheish kanafim, they had 6 wings. Sheish, 6. Sheish kanafim. Shneish kanafim lefat. Each one of these srofim had 6 wings. Shtayim yichase, one of 2 of them they covered their face, not to look at Hashem. Shtayim yichase raglov, and 2 of the 6 wings they covered their feet for tznius, because they had calf-like legs. Remez to the Egel Hazov, so they covered that up. And Shtayim Yofet, and for 2 of them they fly. That means they serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Each one calls to the other, says the famous pasuk, Kadosh 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 Hashem Tzavakos, God of all hosts. God is the God of all forces of nature. Hosts means all the powerful forces of nature. The whole world is filled with His covenant. Vayanu, and they quaked. Almost, what quaked? The building. Vayanu, they quaked. Amos, and the doorpost quaked from the voice of him. Vayanu Amos Hasipim, the doorpost. They call Hakori Habayis, from him who called, and the house became filled with smoke. One did the Malachim call? Yemole Oshen, the house was filled with smoke. Va'omar, and I said, Yeshai said, Oy li, woe is to me, Kidid Mesi, I became domem, inanimate. For I am lost. Ki ish meis v'osayim anochi, I'm a man with unclean lips. Oversoch am temeis v'osayim and the Yosef, and amongst the nation of unclean lips, and the Yosef I am living. He just talked lashon hara against himself and against the Jewish people. Why did he have Ish Tzvosayim, a man of unclean lips? Because he didn't want to sing a song to Hashem, says Radak. Yes, Melech Hashem Tzavok is Ro Einai. I saw the Melech, the King of all hosts, before my eyes, says Yeshaya. The Yof Elai, he flew over to me. One of the seraphim flew to me. So Yodo Ritzpah, in his hand was a glowing coal. Ritzpah, Reish Tzadi Pei Hey. Ritzpah. Interesting. You can change the Tzadi to a shin. Rishpah, Rishofim, Reshef, turned around, Saraf, burning. The Chaim with tongues. He had taken it from the Mizbeach. The Chaim lokach ma'al Mizbeach. The one of the Malachim took with tongues, a burning coal from the Mizbeach. Too hot for the Malach, but not too hot for Yeshaya. V'yagal pini, touched it to my mouth. V'yomer, he said, Hine nogab ze'al savasecha, touch this to your mouth, to your lips. V'sora v'lechem v'chat, and your iniquity shall be removed, because you just called with your mouth, the nation of unclean lips. Don't do that. Your shin shall be atoned for. The chup of Eshmayas, kol ado, and then I heard the voice of God. And this is really the beginning of the Messiah, the Sefer Yeshaya. It starts with chapter Vav. Which word in chapter Vav? Pasuk number Ches. Eshma, and I heard the voice of Hashem saying, "Es kol ado omer, es mi eshlach, whom shall I send?" Heard God talking. Heard Hashem was saying, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us to give Musar to the people?" Me eshlach or me yelech lanu. Who will go and who will go? Me twice. So the Mefarshim say that that when the coal hit his voice and lips, he was not injured. And he said that who shall go? I sent two Nevi'im, and the Jewish people made fun of him. To Abmanish Yisrael, I sent Amos, and they called him Basilus. Basilus means tongue-tied. I sent Micha, and they said they struck him on the cheek, as is written, with the staff they strike the judge of Yisrael on the cheek. Whom should I send now? So Yeshai said, send me. Yomer, Hineni, I'm ready. Shalacheni, send me. I sent Amos and Micha. Amos, they called him a tongue-tied man. He couldn't speak so well. And Micha, they smacked him up. Yomer Lech, then Hashem told Yeshai, Lech v'martulam, go and tell the people, Hazeh, this nation, Shimu Shemoah. Whenever you hear the word it's always the lowest class. Tzadikim, or Adam, or Ish, that's a high class. Even in the Chumash, means the low life, the lowest people. Hazeh, Shimu Shemoah, you have heard. Al-Tavina, but you don't understand. Uru, Ra'o, and you have seen the sight. Al-Teido, you don't know what you've seen. You have seen things in your history and you don't know what you've seen. You don't understand things. You're talking to the people who are not the most biggest tzaddikim. Shemoah Tishma, you have heard, but you don't hear. You heard it, but you don't know what you hear. You don't know what you're hearing. And you don't understand. And you've seen stuff and you don't understand what you've seen. Hashmein Lev Homa said this nation's heart is fatted over, covered over. V'oznav Hakbed, and ears are hard. They're not flexible. They don't hear. Ve'ein of Hosha. And their eyes are sealed. Hosha, sealed. Your ears are plastered, and your eyes are plastered shut, and your ears are you don't hear, you don't see. Pen Yira, Ve'ein V'oznav. That's he sees with his eyes. Pen, maybe if you would see with your eyes, V'oznav, with your ears, Yishma would listen, Levava Yovan, and your heart would understand. V'shav, maybe you will do tshuva, V'rofalo, and you'll be healed. Yomar, V'omar, and I said, Yishai said, Tomar said, Admosa Hashem, how long Hashem? How long will they not hear? V'yomar Adasher im sha'u e'orin, until cities be desolate, without inhabitants. Asher im sha'u orim me'ein Yosef, u'botim me'ein Adam, and houses without people, v'adoma tishoyam, and the ground will go to waste. Shemama, to waste. V'richach Hashem es ha'adam, and Hashem removes people far away. V'richach Hashem es ha'adam, v'rabo ha'azul v'bekerb haaretz, and deserted places will become the land. V'yod bo Assyria, and then when there is yet 1/10 of it, 1/10 of it, v'od bo, this is talking the hint of the 10 Shavatim who are going to be driven away. V'od bo Assyria, 1/10 of it, doesn't mean 1/10, means 10/12 of it. 1/10 of it will again be purged. V'od bo Assyria v'shava, and will be returned. V'haisa levoyer, they will be destroyed. Levoyer ke'elam echavon, like an oak tree, and like another type of tree, terebinth, and like oak tree, which in the fall have but a trunk. They don't have any flowers or leaves in the fall. And when they send away the leaves, they have nothing but a trunk. The holy seed is in the trunk. They have a holy seed in the trunk of the tree. Now in chapter 7, it was in the days of Ochaz, wicked man, unbelievable Rasha. Then Yosam, who was at Tzaddik, then Uziyahu, who was at Tzaddik, Melech Yehuda, this Ochaz was Melech Yehuda, Allah Rotzin, a guy called Rotzin came, Melech Aram, Pekach, a Jewish trader, wicked king, Pekach ben Ramalia of Melech Yisrael, Yerushalayim, the Milchama there to fight against Yerushalayim, a guy with the external nation, and one of the trader Jewish king came to make a Milchama against Yerushalayim. but he couldn't defeat it because of the schus of us. Even the Achaz was a Russia, but his father was David Melech. When you got the base David, it was told to the base David. That means to Achaz, David was long gone. Was told to, he doesn't want to use say the word Achaz because he doesn't deserve the credit. But you got it was told the base David to means Achaz. Leimor Nocha Aram. Aram has come. Aram had allied herself with Ephraim. Nocha Aram El Ephraim. Ephraim was the king of Ephraim was Pekach. He was the Russia. Aram is Aram, Bovel. They have with sin, the king of Aram, made in cahoots with Ephraim. That means Pekach. Then Ramalia, that's when the king of Ephraim, Vayona Lavovo Lavavamo, and his heart and the heart of the people trembled, and the trees of the forest trembled. Kenoah Asay Yor Mepnei Ruach. Like if a wind was blowing, that's how far, that's what trembling. Achaz was trembling. Even the Russia trembled. One of your local kings here, internals, he became a traitor and he ganged up with Ritzin, king of Aram, to attack Yerushalayim. Yom Hashem el Yeshayahu, and Hashem said to Yeshayahu, say, no, go out and across Achaz, face this evil king Achaz, Ato, you and your son, Shor Yoshuv. Shor Yoshuv is your son. Son number 1 of Yeshaya. Bonecha, your son. He had 2 sons. What was the name of the other son? He had 2 sons, Shor Yoshuv. He had another son, one named Shor Yoshuv, the remnant will return, and he had another one called Maher Shalal Hashbaz. The second son was named Maher, quickly, Shalal Hashbaz, hasten the plunder, to symbolize that the 10 tribes would be plundered and exiled from Yehuda and Binyamin. Targum Yonson, however, renders you and your disciples who have not sinned, and all those who have repented of the sins. He holds that Yeshai did not have a son by this name. Anyhow, one son, Shor Yoshuv Bonechom, El Katsei to Alas Habrechom, go with your son Achaz and your son Shor Yoshuv, the son of Yeshaya, a son to the edge of the conduit of the upper pool, the end of the pipe that feeds the upper pool. That was the laundry, but people did the laundry up there. To the road of the washer's field. And you should tell him, you should tell Ochaz, Yishomer, watch yourself, Yishomer b'hashkeit. Do not, Yishomer, he said, feel secure and calm yourself. Yishomer, feel secure, b'hashkeit, and calm yourself, even though he's a Russian. Don't be afraid. Don't let your heart be faint. From these 2 rascals, that really means these 2 smoking stubs of firebrands, Ritzin and Pekach. Pekach ben Yamalia, the king of Ephraim, whose gang who wants to attack Yerushalayim from the 10 Shvatim, and this Ritzin, Melech Aram. They're nothing but 2 smoking stubs of firebrands. From the raging anger of Ritzin, Va'aram, Uben Ramalia, Pekach ben Ramalia. Don't worry about him, because even the Achaz was wicked. The schus of David is going to help them. Yan, because since Aram planned harm to you, Yan ki yo'atz alecha Aram ro'o evil, Ephraim, Uben Ramalia, Ephraim, and the king of that was called Ramalia. Lamor, now of Yehuda, let's go up against Yehuda and Nikit Senov and provoke it. And annex it to us. Let us crown a king in the midst. Eis ben Toval. Know who the king should be? Someone that's good to us, a certain person. Ben Toval. Let's crown a king in his midst, one who is good for us. Now we skip to, that's the end, not the end, this is a few chapters, sentences in 7. We started the 6th. Now we're going to go to 9. Well, they make a play on the word as Toval. Toval, Ben Toval. Ben Toval is a combination of the words Tov El. Targum Yonason sees it the same way. It's also possible to interpret it as Tov El, not good. Tov al, not good in the eyes of Hashem. And according to the calculation of the letters, the gematria of the letters, that's really comes out to Ramlo. You know, the Aleph equals Lamed, the Beis equals Mem, the Gimel equals Nun. You see how that is? Aleph is 30, Beis is 40, Gimel is 50, Dalet is 60, Hey is 70, Vav is 80, Zayin is 90, Ches is 100, and Tes is 200, and Yud is Shin 300, and Chaf is 400. Comes out interesting. There's a certain way to do this. Toval comes out to Ramlo, and that equals to Pekach. That's the guy's name. Anyhow, you have to look up here on Mefarshim. You'll see all this what I'm talking about. But Sin is a guy, the king of Amram, and Pekach is the Yisrael, Melech of Yisrael. Yeah. Now we go to Tes Hey, and we get to the most interesting part. These are something that the Goyim used to prove that man, Osa Ish, was born at a certain time. This is Yeshaya Tes. Hey, Ki Yeled Yulad Lanu, a child has been born to us. So they have to get 21 Pesukim, and when by these two last Pesukim it comes to 21. End of Haftorah Yisro. Ki Yeled Yulad Banu, a child has been born to us. They want to say that's Yeshu. Except Yeshu came 600 years after this. And they don't understand how to read Hebrew. Yeled Yulad. Doesn't say no lad will be born. It says Yulad Lanu. Vain Yeled Yulad Lanu. Vain Nitan Lanu. A son has been given to us. That he Hamisra al Shichmo, and the authority will be upon his shoulder. The Yikro Shmo Pelioes. They call his name Pelioes. And God, who is the wondrous advisor of the Yikro, Shmo, God, whose name is Pelioes, will call that young child, who is nothing but, the man's name is Chizkiyahu. They're going to call him El Gibor. They're going to call him Mighty Man, Avi Ad, Everlasting Father, Sar Shalom, the Prince of Peace. And that is Chizkiyahu. Gimel Shem Yishal HaKadosh Baruch Hu. 3 names of God. God has 3 names, 3 double names. Vayikro Shemo, he'll call his name, God will call his name. Who is Hashem? Pele Yoes, the tremendous advisor. El Gibor, the mighty God. Avi Ad, the God that lives, the Father that lives forever. Kadosh Baruch Hu will call the boy's name Sar Shalom, Prince of Shalom, of peace. And that's Chizkiyahu HaMelech. That certainly was not that fellow, because there's nothing but murder and killing since he was around. Nothing but the opposite. And this is 600 years before that man is born. This is in the time before, in the first base of English. And this man is born at the end of the second base of English. Now comes the word, the only word in Tanakh that has the final mem in the front of the word. Lemarbe. To him who increases the authority. Lamarbe, that's a final mem. Why? There's a lot of things in Tanakh that at one time, in Mizmor L'Sodom, you had, in Mizmor L'Sodom, it's the only time in Tanakh you have the word Hodu, instead of pronounced Hodu, it's Hodu. And in Hallel, it's Hodu L'Hashem Kitov Yud Chasdom. Because in Megillas Esther, Hodu, but the Mila El, that's a country called India. And in Hallel, you have to say Hodu, thank you. Thanks Hashem. And Hodu is the name of a country called India. It's not in the Torah. It's Megillas Esther. The Hodu Bat Kush. Hodu is India. Hodu is give thanks. Like when you get called to the Torah, you don't say Baruch Hu, they ran away. You don't say Baruch Hu, you say Baruch Hu. Let us bless God. So the only place where you have the word Hodu, that means give praise, is in Mizmor L'Sodom, I think chapter, I don't know what capital in Tillim that is, 36 or something. And there's a reason for that. If you know about Tenua Katanos and Tenua Gedolos, and there's a hey right before the word Hodu, and Hodu starts with a hey. You have to know the rules of Tenua Getano, and a soft sounding sound and a hard sounding sound. There's 11 vowels: a, o, e, a, o, 2 o's, a, e, o, u, a, o. There's 2. The a is a Tenua Ketana, o is a Tua Ketana, but a kosher like Dovar, that is a Tnua Gedolah. Then comes A, which is Tnua Ketana. E is a Tnua Gedolah. O is a Tnua Ketana. U with the 3 lines, 3 dots, that's a Tnua Gedolah. Then there's E with a Yud, that's a Tnua Gedolah. Without a Yud, it's Tnua Ketana. And there's Schwab. So if you have to know something about Dikduk, and you'll see that word, the only word in Tanakh, the only word Hodu, in Tanakh, that's pronounced Hodu, is the one in Mizmor L'Soda. In Halal, it's Hodu. And if you have a word Hodu, it's not in Tanakh, it means India. Anyhow, the Marabed Pasuk Vav, Tes Vav, chapter Tes Vav, is the only word, one of the only words in Tanakh that has the Mem Sofis in the beginning of the word. The Marabed, to him who increases authority, HaMisra, U'L'Shalom, Ein Case, there is no end. Al Kisei David, to David's throne, and on his kingdom shall establish. Val Mamlachto Lohov, Hachin, you will establish. Also, it, L'Sa'ador, and you will establish it b'mishpat, with tzedakah, ba'atav adlam, from now and forever, because Mashiach comes from that same throne, that Davidic line. They had some scoundrels on the line, like Ochaz and Rishoyim, but the Geza is holy, and therefore at the end will come Mashiach. God, who is the force behind all forces, will do this, will accomplish this. Okay, Rabbi Isai, it's the end of the Haftorah of Yisro, and if you really want to go into it, you have to get a Tanakh and learn Yeshaya. There's many Art Scroll and Judaic Press has beautiful Tanakh Perushim. Tanakh is a very hard limud. It's not easy to learn Tanakh. I want to tell you one last thing. It says, Hashem Tzvokos Tazazos, the zeal of the Lord of hosts shall accomplish this. Who was zealous for Tzion concerning what Aram and Pekach planned about it shall accomplish this, but Achaz does not deserve it. Moreover, the merit of the Avos has terminated. And our Rabbi said, the Holy One, blessed be He, wished to make Chizkiyahu the Mashiach, and Sancheirav wanted to make him Gog and Magog. Said the angels before Hashem, should the one who stripped the doors of the temples and sent them to the king of Assyria be made Mashiach? Immediately, the pasuk ends. Addendum to Rashi, for unknown midrashic source, we find a similar statement in Sanhedrin Tzadi Dalid, which states that Hashem wished to make Chizkiyahu the Mashiach. The same man. The Midas Hadin protested, however, that since he had not praised God with a song after his miraculous recovery, Chizkiyahu, from his illness, he did not deserve to be Mashiach. For this reason, he was not distinguished as such. Now, how does this account for the closing of the mem, and the word lamarbe, the closed mem? Rashi explains that this in 3 ways. Hashem's suggestion was stopped and closed up. Mem means closed up, and did not materialize. 2, Hashem wished to stop or close up the troubles of the Jewish people by bringing about Mashiach. Mem means sealed. It's a sealed letter, right? And Chizkiyahu's mouth was closed. It did not recite a song to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The first 2 applied to our Medrash as well. See Ibn Ezra and Radak for other reasons. Okay, Rabbi Isai, we're finished. Have a good week. That's the Haftorah of Yisro. Next week we try to do the Haftorah of Mishpatim on time, mostly Shabbos. Have a good Start.